We are a social animal, now deprived of most human interaction. This week, a special series dealing with quarantine fatigue. Right now on Kevin's Isolators.
COVID-19, why you do this to me? I really don't like being stuck in quarantine. I have no toilet paper, I don't even have a snack. Hey, coronavirus, I want my life back.
All right, you know what to do. What's the first thing we do now on Kevin's Isolators? First thing is, what are you grateful for? And let's start off, who's going to be the first one? Lori? Okay, Lori. I am grateful for this lovely weather. Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous out there. I haven't been outside though. I've been sequestered in this chair as well. What else? What else are you grateful for? Let's see. Hold on one second here. All right. Hold on. There we go. Gracias for the nice weather. Okay, that's good. Let's get another one. I'm grateful for double digits. Did you hear? This is that's Linda. I'm grateful for double digits. Did you hear it's going to feel like 30 degrees this weekend? Wow. Okay, so hopefully that is that little tipping point that we won't have frost again anytime soon. What else are we grateful for? Let's put them up there. Oh, is that? I can't. Hold on. I can't. I'm grateful to have my feet up after working all day. Oh, you know what? I'm grateful for red wine. That is what I am grateful for today. I couldn't do this in morning television, but I can do it here. So I like that. Sunshine and warm weather makes you feel a little bit better, doesn't it? And let's do two more. Hi from Newfoundland. Oh, okay. Newfoundland, Darlene. Our 13th day with 0 cases. Grateful for that. Yes, 0 cases. I think Nunavut was the only province and or territory that had no cases. Newfoundland doing much better as well. So thank you for watching out on, I don't know if you're on the rock, but out in Atlantic Canada. And I'm grateful for a bowl of ice cream and strawberries I just enjoyed. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. I would be very grateful for that. Starting off the show with being grateful. I hope you start off your day with that as well. We have so much to talk about for today. Coming up a little bit later, absolutely interesting gentleman that I talked to a little bit earlier. Here, we'll just take the coming up if we could, Parker. Let's just show you this guy. There we go. John Hillman, 101 years old. Did 101 laps around his home in near Victoria, British Columbia. Was wanting to raise $101,000. He is now pushing past $162,000 and still growing this evening. We're going to talk to him in a little bit. He has an amazing story and has some words for you. And now, let's continue on with our series this week, and that is dealing with quarantine fatigue. Today is day 3 of us talking about quarantine fatigue, and we've had it. We've really had it. You saw that show number 61. We have 2 months of it. And today in particular, we are talking about children and the quarantine fatigue that we feel could pale in comparison to what our kids are feeling. So how do we talk to them? And how are they listening to us? That's a question I want to put to my guest. And she is back again. Dr. Kusha Amaria joins me from, she is a clinical psychologist with CBT Associates, advisor to Beacon Digital Therapy. Also spent some time at Sick Kids. And not only for my daughter, but I wore this shirt for you today as well, Sick Kids.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I was thinking about what I was grateful for, and I was grateful for a very quick dinner that I just had that was deliciously made by my husband, and I think I'll probably be grateful for that every single day that I get one of those.
Does he do the cooking mostly?
Just the cooking. He does. He enjoys it more, and he's just better.
Okay, good. So this was not just an isolation thing. This was you're enjoying that. Okay, yes, that's great. And In your time at Sick Kids Hospital, one of the things, and this is what is really going to factor into our conversation tonight, one of the things is you talked about kids in transition. So doing that transition when they turn 18 and they have to go across the street from Toronto Sick Kids Hospital to Toronto Gen when they become an adult. And so one of the things that we deal with this fatigue, with this quarantine fatigue, is going to be some of our kids are transitioning into a more adult way of being fed up.
Absolutely, right. And we think about, when we talk about children, adolescents, young adults, don't forget we kind of think that goes up. Adulthood goes up till about age 25, maybe even late into your 20s. And the reason for that is, the development of our brains doesn't end when you turn 18. It doesn't end even at 25. It probably continues well into that. And so a whole part of development is just transitions. It's transitioning from newborn to toddler to preschool to school agers, all of that kind of stuff. So now we've got this whole group of people that were supposed to have some really marked transitions. Could have been graduating from high school. It could have been leaving a hospital setting. It could have been starting their first job. And for most of them, it's on hold right now. It's paused.
Yeah, and when when my kids were younger, some of them were afraid of thunderstorms, which is very natural for many kids. And I had told them, I said, here's how you can gauge how serious this storm is. When you look at me and I'm worried, then you be worried. But if I'm not, it's okay. It's the same thing when I used to have a fear of flying. And one of the ways I got over it was I looked at the flight attendants. And they were just sitting there, and even in the turbulence, they were just talking to each other, talking about things. So by looking at others, you get a sense, a feeling. And of course our kids look to us for guidance and feelings. What happens, though, when we're just so fed up and we have this fatigue?
Yeah, I think probably what most parents have been doing for the last 61 days plus have been trying to shelter their kids as much as possible from, the ins and outs and the stresses and a lot of the news about COVID. And as a consequence of that, they were probably burdening some of that stress just into themselves. And so we want parents to model the appropriate responses, but we also think it's okay sometimes to let your kids, depending on the age they are, how you're really feeling. So if you are feeling like day 61 is a tough day and you want to take a break from it all, maybe throw a little pity party for yourself, that's fine. That's fine to model that and show that to your child. Probably the most important part to go with that is to also show them how you problem solve it. Show them how you maybe give yourself a bit of compassion. Show them how you were being flexible. It was okay to take a day and bunk off work or not do the chores or whatever you had to do to take care of yourself, because exactly that, you have quarantine fatigue.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So, here we are, we're trying to say, oh, it's okay. And we're saying the same things, right? Over and over. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We've come through the worst of it. It's going to be over soon. Well, they'll only accept that so long, right? So now we are a little fed up. How do we put that to our kids without giving them a loss of hope or scaring them or make them feel as though maybe we're not in control?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head by talking about not giving up on hope, right? So the first thing I would encourage a parent to do before you even have this conversation with a young person is, talk to another trusted adult, even just check in with yourself. What is it that you're really worried about? If you're worried that this will never end, then hold on a second. We all know that that's not true. But if you're worried that you'll have to come up with some new plans for summertime or even the month of June, now that most schools are closed, then that's what you might focus on. So you still want to be able to build hope in all of this. It's interesting. We think it's kind of annoying to have the same messages over and over again as parents, as grandparents, as other trusted adults. But remember, kids actually need stability. They need to have the same predictable messages. They need to see that security, because that's actually what helps them feel safe. That's what helps them feel that they can get through this. And so probably what I would really encourage a lot of families to do right now, if they're feeling fatigued or they're feeling like they can't have that same message over and over again, just change the way you give the message, right? Oh my gosh, we made it through May. Oh, I can't believe we made it through May. That is amazing. So you celebrate what you survived. Or, oh, wait, no, it's 7 more days, 9 more days till we make it through May. Same message, that we made it through this. We have more to go, but the focus is different. As a parent, that might even, reduce a little bit of the stress on you by giving the kids the same old message that there is this light at the end of the tunnel.
You know what the problem with kids is? Let me tell you. Sorry, I'm really sounding my age there, aren't I? One of the problems with kids, and I mean, this is something that is every parent's problem, and that is kids don't always tell us how they're feeling because a lot of times they don't know how they're feeling. How can we get a good gauge on how our kids are feeling? Because you can't fix something if you don't know it's broke.
Yeah, and again, they're all really developmentally appropriate, but the first thing you kind of have to do is you have to shape and practice talking about emotions in your house, right? So, if you're not a natural person, naturally in tune to your own emotions, it probably would be pretty hard for your child to sort of do the same thing. So we shape kids, even in therapy, we're teaching kids how to pay attention to their emotions. So with young kids, you might start really simply. If you were a type of weather, tell me how you're feeling right now. Are you feeling like a warm beach day, or are you feeling like a thunderstorm? Are you feeling, windy and spinning around, or are you feeling? And so you can use all sorts of visualizations, lots of different ways to talk about how you're feeling. And then as a parent, you have to model that and you have to show them, I am tired right now. This is me tired, or this is me angry. But this is also how I fix it, or this is how I cope with it.
Interesting. I do like that. So when it comes to kids, though, and we find out how they're feeling, as parents, we feel it's our duty to fix it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, when I'm talking to people about mental health, a lot of times people just want to get it off their chest. They're not looking for you to fix something. Yeah. Are kids looking for you to fix something all the time? Or is there a time they just want to express that feeling and that's the healthiest thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do know that just generally being able to express what you're feeling is the important part. That's the first piece, because even if you were aiming to fix it, you need to know what those things are first. But actually, what's more important than fixing emotions is validating them. We've heard this right from the beginning. We have to remember that whatever we are feeling as a consequence of COVID, quarantine, all those stressors is normal. Every single reaction we have right now is very normal and reasonable. And so the validating of the emotion, whether it's for your 17-year-old who's getting frustrated and annoyed or acting like everything's cool and they've got this under control, to your 6-year-old who's throwing more and more tantrums. The point is we just validate their feelings first, right? Yeah, I get that you feel that way. Oh, you know what? And then the other part, of course, is just a little bit more patience whenever we can. And sometimes more tolerance, as well as that same old idea of reassurance, right? So we want patience, tolerance, and reassurance whenever we're validating any of those emotions that are happening right now for our kids.
Any time, how old are your kids?
I've got just turned 6 and an almost 9-year-old at home.
Oh, okay. So you haven't gotten into the later teen years, but I'm sure you've dealt with it in your practice many times. But it's never quite the same until you're a parent and experience it as a parent. So you've got this 16 or 17-year-old, and they're quiet, and they're solitary, and they don't want to be around you, and they don't want to talk, and they say everything else to their friends. Yeah. At what point do we get concerned? And at what point do we just say they're just doing their job?
Yeah, I think, the same things that we watched out for in teenagers and children around signs of sort of mental health changes or mental health concerns. It's the same things right now. We're looking out for really intense withdrawal, major changes in behavior, changes in appetite, sleep. We know that that's all happening as part of what's going on right now. The key piece is looking for other cues and reminding your young person, your teenager, that you'll be there for them. You'll be there, you'll be available to provide them with the support, that if they don't want to talk now, they can talk later. And if they don't want to talk to you, that there are other people and trusted people around to speak with them. The key piece is we don't want to ignore signs of mental health, but we don't want to actually believe that every little change is a sign that something bad is happening. Remember, kids, teenagers are actually built to be quite resilient. And we actually want to start by believing that the resilience is present first. And these small little blips are just reactions. And little reactions are no big deal. What I am often paying attention to is like these little reactions and the dips. We don't want things to be falling so low that we need a pretty serious intervention to get somebody out of that in a way. So if that 16-year-old doesn't want to talk to you, but they're talking to somebody, I'd say that's a win. If they're more withdrawal from you because they're on a 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. sleep cycle, I guess the other way around, that's okay. But make sure you build in some routine. Maybe it's just saying, look, we have a lunch date every day because I just want to make sure you're still alive and you showered today or this
Yeah,
week.
that's right. Yeah.
Fresh on them. But you set small goals, right?
Yeah.
In a normal week, you would have, back in the regular world, you might have had different check-in points. But right now, that might be what you get.
So what could we do to sort of kickstart things right now? We're into this quarantine fatigue now. Any suggestions, any ideas to sort of like say, okay, all right. I called it yesterday. I called what we're in right now the 7th inning stretch. So what do we do to get up out of our seats and stretch and sit down for the next 2 innings? What are some ideas, do you think?
Well, I love the idea of stopping, just reflecting first. Like, what have we done really well? Like, because we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't pat ourselves on the back or celebrate our wins as a family, even saying like, we only really started a schedule about 2 weeks ago. And, we made it through the first week, and there were so many mistakes and blips, but we made it seem like it was the biggest deal in our house that we made it through the schedule. The kids, learned when they were supposed to learn. They were off screen when they were supposed to off screen within degrees. But we celebrated that. We said we made it through. We celebrated the first time. You can really mark what you've done successfully, right? My parents, my kids will talk to their grandparents for 4 minutes longer than at the start of the quarantine period, and that is a win, right?
Yeah.
That's carrying something. So stop by reflecting. Reflect like how we've made it through. Maybe it's making it through work milestones, school-related milestones, survival. Basic needs. We've met that despite mom not having a job or dad being stressed out by the things that he's doing. Once you've reflected, then you can start building again those short-term goals. Again, like what is it we want to do to get through the next few sunny days when all we want to be doing is driving to the cottage or driving to the beach? Is what can we do instead? So those small goals, small things to look forward to are just going to break up the next few days, the next week.
You work with, in fact, this is how I got in touch with you through Mind Beacon, which is a digital therapy, and they are offering now some free options to people across Ontario to help them with their own emotions.
Yeah, and I think that I think we were talking about it. Maybe it was even before we just started the call, but that idea of parents have to take care of themselves first to be able to be available and responsive to their children. And so the idea of checking in on your own mental health right now, your own resiliency is really important. So our company, Mind Beacon, is sort of part of two things that are free available across Ontario. One is a program called Stronger Minds by Mind Beacon. So Stronger Minds is just responsive questions and answers about how to deal with COVID. And it's it's available for everybody across Canada. It's free. That's Stronger Minds. Within Ontario recently, we've been so fortunate to be able to provide what we call ICBT, or Internet-Based Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, so ICBT, through the Ontario government, completely free for Ontario residents. And so just as if you were a customer of ours 2 months ago, you come to mindbeacon.com, you'll see this like flash that says, are you an Ontario resident? Click through you just have to click through the Ontario.ca government website, and you'll get access to the same assessment and the same supports for things like anxiety, health anxiety, depression, just even PTSD, all the different things that many of us are going through right now.
And I encourage everybody, whether it's Mind Beacon, whatever it is, I encourage people to reach out. Don't hold all this yourself. Don't try and carry the load completely yourself. Reach out one way. This is one way of doing it, but there are so many other ways as well. Just, you got to ask for help once in a while.
Yeah, that's actually, Kevin, it's so interesting because that is one of the most important pieces of resiliency in kids. So to keep kids resilient, we have to do a couple of things. We need to it's sort of this idea of following, ensuring their basic needs are met, right? Then there's this reassurance we need to provide. We need to keep up routines. We need to support their regulation of emotion, so give them outlets for their emotion. And we need to be, as a parent, we need to make sure caregivers are supported, that they have the tools to be able to take care of others. And when you have all of these factors in place, then you've got like the right conditions to have the best protective factors in place for children. And we know with the right protective factors, that's what gets kids through traumas, through adversity. And this is independent of things like COVID, but it will apply to this scenario as well.
I have a lot of grandparents who watch as well. And a lot of times they don't feel a part of the process of raising a kid in some instances, especially in Western society. But they can have a very big role to play in the lives of their grandchildren. And also not forgetting that those children's parents are still their kids.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you know, again, I think about grandparents having opportunities to support their children, of course, who may be the primary caregivers, and their own grandchildren, and maybe in different ways than they had been before. So maybe they were the go-to babysitter on Friday nights, and they think, well, I can't do that anymore. The kids can't be dropped off anymore. But maybe you're on the Netflix party and watching a movie with your grandkids, very similar to what you might have done before. Maybe you're, not cooking breakfast for them, but it's a breakfast date with grandma, and mom and dad are not allowed to be part of that. Remember special time, how important special time is for kids. You know this when your kids are really little, because all you need to do is spend 20 minutes playing Lego with them, and it's like their day is like just lit up. Special time is important with your teenagers. If you have a bunch of kids in your family, you probably made time to make sure each of your young people in your house had some special time with you. Maybe for one it was reading a book at Starbucks, and for another one it was a baseball game. But that special time can still happen right now during COVID. And I think let's put the onus on grandparents to do that. They can come up with the ideas, and they can figure out how to facilitate that.
Parents can even use their grandparents or their own parents with their kids, because if they can say to their kids, hey, listen, you know what? Grandma's a little afraid right now, or feeling very frustrated. Could you talk to her for me? And it sometimes it helps.
Oh, I love that idea. Play, creativity. Those are things we don't want to forget in a time of COVID. And it might be even more important right now when we're all kind of spent. We spent so much time right at the beginning of this building our schedules, right? Developing our new routines, adjusting to those changes. And those things are so important because they protect ourselves to be able to fight the stress the best that was possible. And there comes a point where we go I'm done with this. I'm just kind of sick of having that same old routine. So maybe now's the time to shake up that routine. Maybe you still have the same requirements. You still have meals. You still do the basic things you need to do, but you shake up the routine. And, it's upside down day next week. Let's do everything upside down. We have dinner for breakfast, and we have, mommy does her meetings at this time, and daddy does, calls in mommy's room, and whatever.
Dessert before supper?
Dessert before supper.
That's
One of my favorite. Absolutely. But that creativity. So again, nothing has changed. You're meeting the same basic requirements you need to, but you're just doing it with a flair of creativity.
All right. Just before we go, I just have one last question. How are you?
I'm okay today. I'm tired, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was worthwhile to have this as a topic to attend to, because it was a reminder that, of course, we'd all be a little bit spent by now, right? That we're doing a lot of different things and often being pulled in a lot of different directions. But I love that idea of stopping to spend some time and just thinking about what you're grateful for. Be part of a shared community where we're all feeling the same thing. Laugh and giggle a little bit at how we're going to approach this, and be able to share something where I feel like I've made a sense of mastery. So I went from feeling quite tired today to feeling quite energetic. I might go join you in whatever you're drinking on the other end.
Yeah, please. I hate to drink alone. All right, Dr. Kushamarya, thank you so much once again for this. Always such great advice. I really loved what you were saying about getting your kids to sort of describe how they're feeling with weather terms. Are you a storm? Are you this? Are you that? A sunny day? I love that idea.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Dr. Kushamarya. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's fantastic when you stop and you think and you recharge, and you move on to another day. So she's always a wonderful guest. I have to have her on sooner rather than later. I was looking at my Skype list there, and I hadn't talked to her for 21 days. Okay, let us move on, shall we? We still have so many things to talk about here tonight. Coming up in a little bit, I'm going to be talking, if you're a senior having trouble with your computer, with technology, even with things like Zoom, things like that, we have a group that wants to help you. And get this, they want to help you free of charge. But now I want to talk to you about a Victoria area man who has raised more than $160,000 for the Save the Children Canada Relief COVID Fund. The amount is still growing. His original goal was $101,000. He did it by walking 101 laps around his home. And, oh yeah, he's 101 years old. Or I'd say 101 years young. He finished it with great fanfare this past weekend. Now, when he was born, Canada and the rest of the world was just coming out of the Spanish flu pandemic. I spoke with John from his home at the Carlton House Courtyard retirement residence in Oak Bay, British Columbia. Hello, John. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me.
My pleasure.
How does it feel? How did it feel once you finished on Saturday?
Exhilarating.
When did you come up with this idea?
About 2.5, 3 months ago, I think. Few of us were in a conversation here, having a coffee, and I said I would like to do something, and we discussed the various charities that were going around, and I said that I would like very much to do something for the children. It was a cause that was very close to my heart, and we decided that would be the one. And so I said, well, if we're going to stick with that, I'm 101 years old, and if I find something that I can do for 101 times, and somebody suggested that thinking about Captain Tom in England doing his garden, we suggested that I could do the car park here. There's a circle around it, and I tested it out. It took about 94 steps to go around, and I thought that was an adequate job. And so we said, right, we'll do 101 laps for $101,000. I think that was a bit ambitious. At least I was ambitious for that amount of money at that time. And I very much misinterpreted the Canadian response, because I was expecting to struggle for 101,000 at the end. Instead of that, I passed the total in 6 weeks. So I had to continue with my 101 laps.
You're up to $162,000 as of this evening.
162,000.
Yeah.
As of today. And they're going on, the charity is going on until the end of May.
And I am putting a link out for people. They can still donate, like you say, until the end of May. Now, when you were born, Canada and the rest of the world was just coming out of the grips of the Spanish flu pandemic. And here we are in another pandemic. What do you want to say to people?
Well, my sympathies rest with the remainder of the world, because I think this is one of the worst occasions, even counting World War II. I think this is one of the worst occasions that the world population could suffer. And my sympathies lie with them. And I hope very, very much that it will all right itself soon. But I never expected to go back to the original status. I think we will find it a whole different life in future. That's my opinion, for what it's worth.
It's worth a lot.
Yes.
So maybe next year 102 laps.
Yes, maybe. But can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Are you a national broadcast?
we are on social media mainly right now.
Yes,
Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
yes.
Who?
I'm just wondering whether you're a good medium for me to be able to say thank you to all the people who contributed to my cause and sent me the most wonderful messages of support and wishes for the future.
John, you know what I'm going to do?
Okay.
I'm going to get you to say something right now to those people, and I'm going to make sure that I put it across social media so that everyone in the world has access to it. So, John, what do you want to say to everyone who contributed?
I want to say my grateful thanks to everybody who contributed towards that charity, and they made me feel absolutely on top of the world. And I also want to say thank you for the comments, the wonderful tributes that they paid to me personally. I don't think that I deserve them, but I'll accept them. Thank you.
Well, John, you are proof that it doesn't matter where you are, what you are, how old you are, that you can help people and make a difference. And you are going to make a huge difference in so many lives. And I thank you.
Yes, I've achieved it, and I am gratified by the comment you make about it.
Thank you, John, and take care of yourself.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
What an amazing individual. As we had said tonight, the total he has raised so far is $162,000. The fund will remain open until May the 30th. It's a long website. So what I've done is I've put it on my Twitter and Facebook accounts. There is a direct link there, and you can donate as well. I'm going to, as I said, I promised John, I'm going to take his words. I'm going to package them together, and I am going to put them out on social media tomorrow. And I appreciate it when you see it, whether or not you could retweet or help send that along. So, John, thank you and Godspeed. Is this the new way of buying a suit? Suit Supply, a store in Yorkville, has installed safety screens so they can still fit you in person. They also have other offers as well, such as making an appointment to come in, reserving a dressing room. Yeah, I guess that's the way of the future, my friends. Well, after media lambasted the city of New York for the crowds at one particular park, this is called Domino Park, look what they've done. They've put circles on the ground, and you can't go out of your circle. I mean, you can go out of it, but if you're going to be sitting around like that, you got to be in your circle. So, again, we're looking at all these new normals as to what life is going to be like once we are all back out there. How long can that last, though? If you are a senior, you know that it can be very difficult sometimes to deal with technology, and quite often you'll end up calling your son or your daughter to come to your rescue, but that's a little more difficult. And now, of course, you are depending more on people, or sorry, depending more on Zoom and these different kinds of social media to stay in touch. So there is one group that is offering to help you stay on board technology wise and keep your computers working and answer any of your questions and even fix them for free. I had a chance to find out all about them this afternoon. Hi, David. How are you? Thanks for joining me.
Good. How about you, Kevin?
Very well. This is a service, you are right, is desperately needed, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've seen tremendous take up so far, over 150 sessions and 125 older adults assisted.
And this is free.
Completely free of charge. We are providing this to help people out during the pandemic and hopefully even beyond that.
How long does someone have to wait for help?
We guarantee 48-hour turn times, response times. Ideally, we try to get to you within 24 hours. And for the majority of people, we have been able to meet that guideline.
What are some of the most common questions and challenges that people have?
I'd say number one, surprisingly, is Apple-related issues with respect to like getting your iCloud synced across devices. We've had a few printer mishaps. You know, it's CRA tax season, so people are trying to get their printers working. And then also we've had some questions around Zoom and Skype and being able to connect with loved ones across the country.
I know how frustrating it can be when I'm trying to talk someone through something on the phone. It takes a special talent to be able to do that. How much training do your volunteers have to go through, not so much on the tech side of things, but on the communication side of things?
Sure. So we've created some modules to help them, think through ways to communicate with older adults. What we've also had is we've had some of our more experienced volunteers who have done a few of these go on and kind of help out the other volunteers. And so we find that kind of shared learning model to be helpful. And I think the final piece is around our recruitment. Frankly, most of our volunteers to start with came from my social networks and my brother's social networks. And, these are, typically people that have customer service experience.
So you have a background in tech investing, and what about your brother?
So my brother is a master's thesis student at McMaster in neuroscience. So he definitely brings more of the background in terms of mental health and thinking through, the implications of something like COVID. It's extremely detrimental to your mental health to be isolated. And, we know from statistics that 25% of older adults live alone. And so, just thinking through that, we wanted to provide a service like this that connects older adults with the rest of the world.
And perhaps nothing is more important for seniors these days than Zoom and Skype, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. It's some of the stories and the feedback that we've heard, it really, it gives me a sense of purpose. Like we've heard people who've been able to connect with their families for this first time since the pandemic started. We've had emails from some folks saying, hey, this was, really life-changing. And when we first started this, we were just really focused on providing a solution to a need that we found out there. But we think this has legs and can continue to go.
All right, you have a website and you have a phone number in which people can contact you for help, but also you're looking for volunteers.
Yeah. So we definitely have capacity to take on more volunteers. We have a pretty simple volunteer onboarding process, which you can also find on our website. And we do provide a basic level of training as well.
What kind of background would you need? Could I volunteer?
You could volunteer if you feel comfortable with technology. Most of the issues we're solving for are there are issues that digital natives like millennials might run into on a daily basis, but they kind of take for granted. Mm-hmm. And so all you need is a little bit of patience and a little bit of technical skills, and you're totally able to help.
Okay, so once again, the website is
www.techserveto.com. all one word, spelled TECHSERVETO.com.
And the phone number?
It's 1-888-418-4771.
This is fantastic. This is something that is definitely needed and something unique and something, I guess, in a way that you can help and actually use what talents you have to help. I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate the kind words.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, and Linda, can we put Linda's comment up there right at the bottom, because this is so important, especially for seniors to know. Don't give out passwords. Be cynical. There are safeguards that this group does put into place to help you feel better and feel more comfortable. But we've had, unfortunately, an upturn in the number of people who are trying to rip people off right now. So handing over control of your computer, handing over passwords, always something. Be cynical. Keep that in the back of your mind all the time. They can do a lot of damage if they get even one password of yours. It was so nice to talk to Dr. Amaria once again. And again, I love what she said. If you're talking to your kids and you can't get them to talk to you or at least describe how they're feeling. In fact, you could use this with adults as well. So if you were a day, what would you be like? Would you be a sunny, beautiful, warm day? Or would you be a little bit stormy, cloudy, a little cool, whatever? I think that's a great way of doing things. All this week, we have been talking about quarantine fatigue. And Dr. Amaria gave us permission to say, yeah, it's okay to be fed up. It's okay to once in a while sit down and say, oh, yeah, I've had it. But then you got to get back up again. And so if you feel like you're giving up or you've given up, it's understandable. Just don't keep doing that. It's understandable. And that's what I'm hoping to really accomplish with this series this week, is to sort of say to you, yeah, everyone's fed up. We're tired of this, but we got to keep going. And so hopefully we're able to, in these evenings, give you that bit of breath to get yourself back up. Like I said, it's my feeling we're in the 7th inning, friends. We're in the 7th inning stretch. We've come this far. This game is almost over. Well, it won't be over completely. We just don't know what the new normal is going to look like. You saw what they're doing in that park in New York, what they're doing with that suit shop up in Yorkville. Who knows what kind of world is waiting for us at the other end. I hope we'll be better for it when we see groups like David that are forming and helping people. We've had people on this show who are out there trying to help people. We just saw a 101-year-old man do what he felt what little he could do, but it turns out to be a lot more than that, to do what he could do to help someone. And often that's the best way of coping. That is the best way of getting over the fatigue. What can you do to help? Put some thought into it. There's going to be a whole different world, as I mentioned, waiting for us. What can you do to help people in that new world? One thing that hit me this morning when I got up and I looked at what a beautiful day it was right from the beginning this morning is I put a message out on my Twitter. And it dawned on me that I'm looking out the window at the same beautiful sky that you are. I'm looking out at the same beautiful sky that someone in Caledon is looking out, someone in Hamilton, anywhere else. And it's beautiful and it's sunny. And it seems like I'm alone, but we're all looking out. So I wanted everybody to remember that they're looking out one window when we're in this together. And so that was the theme of what I was looking for this morning. And here's what I managed to put together for you. So thanks for watching. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We are a social animal, now deprived of most human interaction. This week, a special series dealing with quarantine fatigue.
COVID-19, why you do this to me? I really don't like being stuck in quarantine.
I have to get some ice from you.
I have no toilet paper, I don't even have a snack.